Well, hello and welcome to another high energy version of Inspired Good Fat Life. And my guest today is Doris Hage, and we'll cycle back to her in just a moment. But first, I have to remind you that we have our new issue of Good Fat Life magazine. It's at goodfatlife.com. You can go there and get a subscription, and we send out lots of really pretty cool surprises during the year for our subscribers. And so not only do you get great articles and information and some challenges, you get some surprises as well as to know when our events are. Because here at Good Fat Life, we like to bring our events, our magazine to life in an immersion kind of thing. So that said, Doris, you in your bright red, I love it. It feels good on this kind of cold, chilly day. And Doris, yes, Doris Hage from Life on Purpose. And today, Doris, one of the things with Good Fat Life is we have Good Fat Life, and then we have Good PHAT Fat Life. And Doris, go ahead, Doris. What did you say when you heard me say that?
I said it's good fat life and the P equals purpose. Like that is good fat life with a P, and that P represents purpose.
There you go. And it's so aligned with what we're going to be talking about today. And Doris and I are, if I seem a little kind of foggy today, it's because we just got back from South Africa. And and it was a 36-hour trip back, and we both had major events this weekend, and so we're just finding our equilibrium or something. What would you say?
Yeah. I mean, was it 36 hours? I told everyone 29 hours, and they're like, oh my gosh.
No, it's
36
actually 36, but who's counting, right? 29,
Who's
36, yeah.
counting? Who's
Right.
counting? I mean, it really tested ourselves and tested, of being able to find the balance of like, okay, this is a circumstance, as Sherri's, known to say it's a circumstance, but it's also that part where it was just kind of like, this is a little frustrating. This is a universe test that for whatever reason we had to go through. But the one thing is I love Sherri more from it through that experience than I did before. So that's great news. And I hope you love me even
I
more from
do. I do. I told Bob, I go, I'm having withdrawals from Doris.
I know, man,
So
Sherri withdraws.
exactly. So because we were like together for 24/7 for 8 days,
Yeah,
under great circumstances and also some challenging ones too. So
absolutely.
Doris, so let's talk about that. Talk about life on purpose. Talk about how you created life on purpose and how that is informing or feeding your good fat life,
Yeah, and
right?
Sherri, after this trip, the purpose has expanded a lot. And I mean, just share that from, again, we're still kind of downloading all this information and through this trip, the magnificent 12 that we were with, purpose, when I first kind of defined it was, my dad was from Lebanon, my mom is from Mexico. I grew up in Taylor, Michigan, off Inkster Road, in low income housing. And through a lot of my time, it was like I didn't know where I fit in, whether my Arab, my Mexican side, my this and that. And many times I got in trouble for talking too much or doing
You
this thing.
talking?
Me,
Yeah,
right? Me talking
yeah.
about. I was my nose in the board, Doris nose to the board, but I all this stuff kept going, and I kind of felt like I didn't know where I belonged, and I kept trying to fit into different groups, and it didn't make sense. And it wasn't until I became a career advisor. I've been a career advisor for 20 years, opening up 5 post-secondary schools, working at Specs Howard as an internship coordinator. It came even clearer as working with students that had barriers. And so if a student had a barrier, a fear, a circumstance, no matter what job I would put them in, they'd be right back in that chair. And so it stemmed through that frustration of like working with students for their character, their self mastery, their self. Like, overcoming barriers that may limit them from achieving better things because they're stuck into this part. And I would tell them, you have a purpose. You're here. We all woke up today. Raise your hand if you woke up today. And I'm right. No, seriously, if you did, and that should be everyone watching this, is you woke up today and you have a purpose. And as the time went on and I worked with students, I had a 99% success rate. And, Sherri and I met 10 years ago with the positive zone. And it was so a collaborative of people thinking the same way. As you got to meet students where they are and teaching character and listening to them, where most teachers, educators, don't have time to work with students. It's just numbers game. And so Life on Purpose, grew from just universal attraction. Wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult with this. It was so natural, of which it was just like a phone call. It organically happened. And so when I got back to myself, I did a birth chart, natal chart, and on myself of the date, time, and location I was born. And that's another topic. If you know what a birth chart is, you know what a birth chart is. If you
Right.
don't, just let me know. Reach out to me. I'll explain it to you. But
And they are
it,
fascinating. I'll just say as a side note. So
they
they are fascinating, and especially when you see how much of who you are is showing up because of the date and time and place you were born.
a full moon, what does it affect on Earth? Half the
Yep. Oh
people will
yeah.
say half the half will say people, half says gravitational pull of water. What do we made the most of, and why is the moon the only one that has special privileges? It's been around a long, all these planets have been around a long time. So I did a birth chart, and like one of the first things it showed me is that I'm going to be a talker my whole life, and that's who I am. And I always tell people, part of purpose, we all have 5 core passions, and one of the things is the thing that you always got in trouble for. Why do you keep doing that? And you're like, I don't know. And organically, it's just grown of helping our students. We work with students with disabilities, veterans. We work with Grow Detroit's Young Talent, with youth in the city. But now, after this trip, it's kind of expanded itself of like, now is purpose is, you can change your purpose, not change your purpose, you can change your outcome, your belief system around you, localize. I didn't realize that I would feel that going to a different country and seeing myself of like the beliefs I did think that were here and were part of me, and seeing something in another country of like a purposeful living, of expansion outside of just even where I'm located. I don't know if that
Right.
makes sense, but in a broader scale.
So let's just give a little perspective as well. So a lot of the students that we work with Life on Purpose are African American,
Yep.
right? And Detroit's has a large African American community. And
Yep.
the tour that we went on, one of our partners in this crime, if you will, is she's African American, and she
Yep.
invited us to go on this trip. It was around education, heavily educational, but the tour part of it was Black history
Yep.
in South Africa. And it was
Yep.
fascinating. And so, and Doris and I there were 12 of us, and Doris and I were the only 2 white people, right?
Hmm.
And so we got, what we wanted was to get additional perspective with the people that we serve, because we don't have their experiences. Now, we all have individual experiences. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doris's experience is different than mine. We're all different, but yet there are certain things that we will never experience because my skin's white,
Yeah.
or my eyes are brown, or somebody who has blue eyes is going to have a different experience than somebody with brown eyes. It's just it's human. It's humanness, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
we wanted to deliberately have the opportunity to learn and hear different perspectives, and that's what we got.
We really did. And I mean, we learned a lot more than what they teach us in America, for sure. And we had the hostess with the mostest, our tour guide was so knowledgeable. Herbie
Right.
was
Yeah.
so knowledgeable, where it was enough like fact and, kind of book information, but also his own personal information of his story. And, and he shared about his color of his skin, which was a little bit, he's more of a brown, and sharing his experience with that is was able to just open our eyes to understand that perspective. And I feel like, and it's crazy, I'm looking behind you and I see the world is literally,
Oh, you're right. The world maps.
world is
Yeah.
behind you, is how it took me 40 years to do this was my first international trip. It took me 40 years, and I'm not the same since this trip, and wondering what would happen if we could get more people to explore outside of just their township, their city, just that community, to understand something at a bigger level than just what's around us.
Right. And I love what you said earlier. It's that we have perspectives, and so much of it, I think I've heard, 90% of what drives us is subconscious. And so we don't even know that that's what our beliefs are, our perspectives. And so when you're around different people, just sharing, we went to a safari. And so you're around other people, and it's not like you're trying to have these deep conversations. It's just, you're just hanging out. And somebody will say something, right? And somebody will say something, you go, oh, well, that's interesting. Tell me more.
The one thing too is they're happy there. They are happy. That's what I'm telling everyone. I'm like, happy people. Like, and they say you Americans are always so stressed out, always so stressed. And as I, and I said, I was like, okay, let go of this. Like, the elevator wasn't working in the building. I kept pressing it, and end up meeting, the general manager of the Holiday Inn in Zimbabwe and Nairobi. And it was like those things that you stop and see. And then, I went to Florida for my cousin's wedding, and I watched somebody else getting so stressed of that elevator, like one button not working. And I started laughing because it took me to
Because
that,
you could see you, yeah, with
to
that same, right.
me over there, and someone saying, Doris, stop, don't worry, and it's very interesting to see that they're not out there to be millionaires and billionaires, and that they have to have that. Their number one self is making sure they have, in Maslow's hierarchy of need, that food, water, shelter is the most important thing to them, and being happy is important to them,
So
and
there's a
Cape
lot of
Town.
music. Yeah. A lot of music and a lot of dance. Just
Oh,
naturally
Sherry
just pours
danced
that.
like it was
That was funny.
Sherry's birthday, and oh my gosh, sharing what they grabbed her and put her on. They were playing the drums. This little 2-year-old boy was dancing, and they grabbed Sherry, and she let loose and singing happy birthday to her. You got it twice too from another youth group that sang to you as well.
Yeah. So just talk a little bit about how you've gone from, but when you figured out what your purpose was, how it really has changed. You went from wanting to travel or
Yeah.
thinking that you wanted to travel to being in a position where you can now travel and you can do those things that you wanted to do because you're intentionally creating your good fat life with the P.
Yeah, with a P. And I realized it on the plane. And what I realized too was I thought my purpose was that I had to have life be difficult because I need these lessons and lessons and lessons and lessons and lessons. Like, I really thought that was part of it. And going through this, I was on Spirit Airlines on coming back, and babies screaming and crying, and the guy behind me is kicking me, and someone's coughing up I don't know what. And I look out the window. It was, like,
Yeah.
we were delayed. It was all of the things that I'm like, I just want to get home to my bed. But I look out the window, and we're on the taxi line, and I look out, and there's this beautiful bird, and it was just chilling, started scratching itself, and then going like this, and I swear it was like in line with me. And I look up, and the moon is out, and then a hawk like flies by, and I was like, I'm in chaos right now. I'm in like frustrated. I'm like already writing, my survey to spirit, like never, I'm telling everyone never again, all of this, and stopping and saying it doesn't have to be that hard because my mind gets to choose that. And Sherry, we share that a lot is I have been through a lot in my life. Like whether people want to believe or not, I have had many hard hits. Like I used to believe like the more hits I can take and get up, the stronger of a warrior I am. And I don't want hits anymore. Going on that trip and seeing the beauty of things and not saying it's not going to be perfect and sunshine and butterflies all day, but I want more of it. I want
Mm,
more of it. And our minds are so amazing to do that. And this trip changed my life and I made it a priority to travel. I figured things out. I bought less things, didn't spend much, saved much, looked for coupons because I needed to go on this trip. And when you and Maxine said we should go to South Africa, I was like, sure. And, in my mind, I'm like, that's not going to happen, Doris, like what it is. And then I was like, no, sure. And once I really believed it and I said, I'm going to
okay,
go, and I
gotta go.
actually put it out in existence. And, I told Tori and I was like, I'm going to South Africa. He's like, all right, okay. And I told someone else, I was like, I'm going to South Africa. All right, are you? And then I said, and I just kept saying it and it's
And it happens,
happened. And
right?
it
And
happened.
And so there was, just as we're kind of like wrapping this up, the one thing that happened by stepping out and expanding the mindset and meeting new people and having different conversations and it's been interesting of the opportunities that have come flying in from all over the place that
So
that are providing for additional trips, right?
And it was all natural, Sherry. That was
Yeah,
the part we
it
said. It
wasn't
was like
hard.
the person sitting next to us, like, oh my gosh, or we met two individuals and it was like a contact we needed, or it was so organic.
Right.
It was so organic. Like it was fulfilling of like the soul, like you ate a good avocado and your soul was like, yes, your
And you
little
just
child
feel good.
self was like, thank you for feeding me way deep down here, It was that feeling and it was just natural, freeing and organic. That's the best way I can share it. And I'm
Same.
so proud of myself. And many people said, I'm so proud of you, Doris. Like I'm proud of you that you did it because many people knew my story of how tough I always am and I'm always surviving and always fighting and this has really changed a lot because the people in Africa have less than us and they're not fighting. I mean, they're moving, but they're not fighting. They felt privileged to work at a hotel. They said they're privileged to be working in a hotel
I'm happy about it. Yeah.
and happy about
So,
it.
so, all right. Well, on that note, if somebody wants to is feeling kind of stuck or wants to have a conversation to help find their purpose,
Yes.
where would they find you?
So our website is lifeonpurposedetroit.com. We also have our Facebook page, which is Life on Purpose Detroit, as well as I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. And Instagram. If you look up Doris Hage, there's only like 4 of us that's out there, and I'm friends with 2. But please reach out to me, and we're different than a lot of organizations. Our team are all individuals that understand the importance of self mastery, self, and the work. It's a combination of both, and we want you to come in as please do not say I have to be this certain way. I need to be at this point. If this is coming to you, there's a reason for it, and hear it out. Please reach out. We work with Michigan Rehabilitation Services, in which there's no cost to you. It's covered through there. We'll help you figure this out. We'll help you through what you're going through, and if you need a career job, we'll make it work for you. And again, just show up as you are. There is no judgment. This is a brave zone, safe zone. Just reach out and you can make a difference. I'm telling you from experience, you can make a change. You really
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
You have a purpose.
Yeah, we have a purpose and we've seen it with hundreds of people successfully. So it's pretty cool. So,
Beautiful.
on that happy note, I have to do a shout out to Snedicor's Cleaners. They
Okay.
are a concierge cleaning, and they make they make my life easy. And I like to talk about self-care, and Snedicor's Cleaners has become a staple in my life for my self-care because I put the bag out on the doorstep, the yellow bag out on the doorstep, and it comes back, and my clothes are clean and pressed and ready to go. So,
Perfect. I'm looking at all my clothes right now.
yeah, right, exactly, right? So I don't have to, and then actually as I was unpacking, it just goes yellow bag, yellow bag, yellow bag, and really, they do an amazing job, and it just makes me feel good to know that my clothes are going to come back in a better state than when I sent them out because they have such gentle processes and they're environmentally friendly and all that goes with that. So,
That's the good stuff. I need a
yeah,
yellow bag, Sherri.
yeah, I know they need to come to you. Um,
Mhm.
so, thank you, Doris, so much for being here and for sharing the South African journey with me and the work that we do. Because I've seen so many lives change by working with Life on Purpose and the help that you help people providing their good fat life, right?
Yes. It's going to be our new thing. It's Good Fat Life with a P, and purpose is the collaboration.
There
I
you
love it.
go. I love it too. So, on that happy note, let's go out and continue living our good fat lives.
I dance now.
Okay.
Anything with the music. Thank you, Sherri, for having me. I really appreciate it.